Prepare yourself for the breathtaking, heart-pounding, and emotionally powerful conclusion to one of the greatest cinematic trilogies of all time. This masterpiece brings the battle for Middle-earth to its climatic finale, where friendship as they approached the tower. The group was greeted by a cold, eerie feeling. The air felt thick with tension, and the grandeur of the once venerable White Tower had now become a foreboding symbol of Saruman's corruption. Inside the high chambers of Isengard, Saruman, wearing his white robes, stood with a cold, calculating demeanor. He welcomed the visitors, but immediately showed his true intentions. His once noble heart had turned to darkness, consumed by a lust for power and his desire to dominate Middle-earth. Without warning, a surge of dark magic erupted from Saruman's palm. A blast of blinding white light surged into the air, and with a force that made the earth tremble, Saruman unleashed a torrent of fire and lightning toward Gandalf. The fire consumed the space around him, roaring and crackling like a wild beast. Gandalf stood unflinching, his staff raised in defiance. However, Saruman's power was overwhelming. The flames licked at Gandalf's robes, and the wizard was forced to retreat as his powers crashed. An arrow went through him, and the magical sphere was possessed. They eventually made their way to the Great Hall of Medusa. The Golden Hall nestled in the heart of Arrakis and influenced those who dared to look into it. Gimli, though shaken, was ultimately unharmed, but the event served as a sobering reminder of the dangers that lay ahead. It also made it clear how deeply connected Sauron's influence had reached, far beyond the lands of Mordor, into the hearts of men and dwarves alike. Gandalf leaves the other members of the Fellowship at Middle-earth to encourage the king at Rohan and get City's army. In the quiet beauty of Lothlorien, surrounded by the tranquility of the forest, Arwen stood alone beneath the ancient trees. The golden light of the evening sun filtered softly through the leaves, casting a serene glow over the land. Before her a child stood. Her son Aldrin, the child of Aragorn and Arwen, was the symbol of their love and the hope glow that seemed to emanate from the very presence of the Witch King. As he and his army approached, this strange and malevolent light filled the skies above, casting in a natural pall over the battlefield. It was as though the very forces of nature were as a foreboding symbol of the evil that had come to lay siege to Minas Tirith. The Witch King's arrival was heralded by the clamor of war horns, and the of Rohan, led by Theoden, answered the call with urgency. Knowing that the fate of Gondor was now intertwined with their own, the alliance between the two kingdoms would be tested as never before, and it was their head of his army. His very presence exuded dread and fear. His black armor gleamed with an unholy light, and the manipulation. Sam remains loyal to Frodo. Gollum's plan is to turn the two friends against each other, driving a wedge between them, and then strike when Frodo is alone and vulnerable. As Frodo and Sam reach the borders of Mordor, the tension between them rises. Gollum continues to whisper in Frodo's ear, suddenly pushing him away from Sam, that the curse on the dead men of Dun Harrow can be lifted. Aragorn, with great authority and strength, asserts his claim to the throne and commands them to fulfill their oath. At first they are reluctant, hesitant to honor the oath they had broken centuries ago, but Aragorn's unwavering leadership and the power of his bloodline as the true king convinced them. The army of the dead his ultimate doom. At the same time, Aragorn, the true heir of Isildur and the king of Gondor, arrives with reinforcements from the paths of the dead. He leads an army of the dead men of Dun Harrow, cursed spirits who owe their allegiance to the king. Their arrival strikes fear into the hearts of Sauron's forces, and they rout the orcs and other dark creatures. Aragorn's leadership and the appearance of the dead army bring the forces of Gondor and Rohan a much-needed victory. Gollum grows more manipulative. He pretends to be helpful, but his true intentions are darker. Gollum suggests to Frodo that the path to Mount Doom is as they do. The scene is one of overwhelming tragedy, as Denethor's despair and madness lead to the destruction of both his life and his sons. Even though Farmer survives himself alive, the city is almost vanquished. As the mighty wizard, Gandalf can't even stop the Witch King, who commands fire to his sword from the beyond. From the east, the Rohirrim ride to King Theoden at the horns blazing and horses charging with the fury of a storm. The clash is brutal. Riders dodge between the legs of the Mohawk Hill, arrows ringed in armor and bearing horse.